Well, it finally happened. After weeks of chatter and talk and suspense around where Pascal Siakam would go, he was finally dealt to the Indiana Pacers on January 17th, 2024. This is kind of crazy because just about a week ago, we thought he was going to be on the Sacramento Kings, another team in which he would have fit very well on. But apparently the Kings and the Raptors run into some issues when it comes to talking about trades, whether or not Pascal saw himself there long term, and what the Kings felt like giving up. It was rumored that the Raptors wanted to get Keegan Murray, but Mike Brown, as well as the Kings front office, was not giving up Keegan Murray at all. So eventually the trade fell through. And then once after that, it seemed like we were back to square one. Where would Pascal Siakam go? Where would he be traded to? Would he be traded at all? And as of today, we got our answer. Pascal Siakam is your newest Indiana Pacer. Now, before we get into the analysis of the trade, let's break down the trade details. First and foremost, it is a 3-team trade between the Pacers, the Raptors, and the Pelicans. Now in this trade, the Pacers received Pascal Siakam, obviously, and a second-round pick. The Raptors received Bruce Brown Jr., Jordan Nwora, Kira Lewis Jr. from the Pelicans, and 3 first-round picks. And the Pelicans, we don't really know their compensation just yet. From the Pelicans' standpoint, they probably just came in, they probably just got some picks, and they were just called so they can make the deal work. They saw a piece like Kira Lewis Jr., who wasn't really getting much run in New Orleans, and the Raptors, they're a young and rebuilding team, and they were like, let's try him out here. And that's exactly what happened. Now, this trade is crazy for a multitude of reasons. The number one thing being, the Raptors got 3 first-round picks from the Pacers. Not 1, not 2, but 3 whole first-round picks from the Pacers. I don't really know the specific picks they got. I believe one of them was a swap and some other ones are from this upcoming draft. But 3 first-round picks on top of the players they got was a pretty big haul. But from the Raptors' perspective, I think this was a pretty solid trade to make. I mean, think about what they got. They got Bruce Brown Jr., who could be dealt with the trade deadline coming up. We know Toronto is in a rebuilding stage and they don't really want Bruce Brown to hang around there. So they might trade him away and get some more assets, and maybe they make a big splash, or they just keep it in build like the Thunder did. On top of that, they got some very young and promising players. Jordan Nwora out of Louisville is a promising player who could make an impact alongside Scotty. Kira Lewis Jr., like I mentioned before, he didn't really get much playing time or run in New Orleans. So the Pelicans put him in, they traded him to the Raptors. So the Raptors being in a rebuilding phase, it's nothing for them to just try him out and see what he looks like on the court. I was a big fan of Kira when he was coming to Alabama, and I think there is still some untapped potential there. And there's no better place than to unlock that untapped potential than the Raptors. You have a rebuilding team who needs a guard to facilitate. And then when we talk about the picks, I mean, oh my lord, 3 first-round picks. There is a lot you can do with 3 first-round picks. Now, the thing about this draft class is not really a whole lot of star level talent. You know, some people would describe this draft class as pretty mediocre, pretty weak, and just overall not one worth having a whole bunch of picks for, which is part of the reason why the Pacers were so comfortable with giving up all those first round picks. But I have confidence in a guy like Masai Ujiri, who already has his star level player in Scotty Barnes, to find some nice complementary pieces within the draft. I mean, this draft may not have that much top end talent, but there are definitely some sleepers just hiding away in this upcoming draft. And despite that fact about the draft class, I still think this is a pretty impressive haul for a player like Pascal Siakam. Yes, the draft class isn't loaded. Yes, you didn't get this star young player that you might see in a trade for a player of Pascal's caliber, but this is probably the best you're going to get at this point, and you have some pretty high upside picks and players in that trade. I mean, think about it like this. Pascal has been in trade rumors for like 2 to 3 seasons at this point, right? So in order for you to be able to get 3 first-round picks and some young players of promise is pretty impressive, because Pascal's value is something that has tanked a decent amount ever since that 2019 championship run. One, because the Raptors just aren't the same team they were back then, and they're just not as good. 2, because Pascal's performance on the court has been great at times and also not been as good as times. And the Raptors have been very defensive and hesitant on trading them for whatever reason. Some people think it was due to them believing they could build around them and create another core and probably go for a championship in a couple years. Others think that they were just being stubborn and waiting for the right deal. Either way, it caused a trade like this to stall off for a while. And with this trade, on top of the OG Anunoby trade, I think the Raptors are doing pretty good. And I think all the flack and anger that Raptors fans had for Masai Ujiri should start to fade away at this point. He has made two very impressive deals in the past couple of months for some high upside players while also getting rid of aging assets on his team, which, what more can you ask for somebody who is in that type of position in the front office? Literally what they signed up to do, and I think Masai did a pretty good job at that. And when it comes to the current construction of the Raptors roster, there is a lot to be excited about. I mean, think about this young core you guys have. You have Scotty Barnes, you have Emmanuel Quickley, who arguably was the best player in that deal for OG Anunoby, RJ Barrett, and Grady Dick. And on top of that, they have a lot of cap in the summer. If you're a Raptors fan, you should be really excited for the future because this is a very good move for your team going forward. It might not look the best right now. You guys are probably going to struggle for the rest of the season and the next couple of seasons. But I promise you, with this young core and with the potential and how good I think these players are going to be, y'all should be good in no time. Now, the other team that was involved in this trade that I haven't mentioned yet is the Indiana Pacers. And they are another team that I think walks away with a huge W from this trade. They got Pascal Siakam in the second round pick. Now, what makes this trade so good is the fact that Pascal made it very, and I mean very clear throughout this whole process, whoever he gets traded to, he has to want to re-sign with them. That's the reason why he didn't go to the Kings. I'm sure it's going to come out in weeks. That's the reason why he didn't go to other teams. But he went to Indiana, and there are reports, and I think they're true, kind of similar to when Kyrie went to the Mavericks. There are reports about him re-signing. I am very certain that Pascal is going to re-sign Indiana. So not only do you trade for a dude who is on the expiring contract, you don't just have him for this year. He's not somebody who can just help you, who might help put you over the edge this season in the Eastern Conference. He's somebody who's going to be here for a long time, and you can build with your already pretty good and young team. And he has a lot of things that you would want. He has championship experience. He's been on all-star teams. He has been vital parts on a multitude of playoff runs. What more can you ask from a team like the Indiana Pacers that is young and fun, but lacks veteran leadership and have little to no playoff experience with any of their vital pieces on that roster? Now, when it comes to a play style fit, I don't know if there is a more perfect fit for a guy like Pascal Siakam other than the Kings. Obviously, I was probably kind of bummed when I found out he wasn't going to the Kings. But his fit with the Pacers is perfect. He will thrive in a second side / two-man game with one of the best distributors in the NBA in Tyrese Halliburton. I mean, we saw how well Pascal performed next to Kawhi. We saw how well he performed when he was playing with Fred VanVleet. Now imagine him next to Tyrese Halliburton. On top of that, when it comes to running in transitions and hunting mismatches, he will be phenomenal in that system in Indiana. And if I'm an Indiana fan, and really as an NBA fan, I am extremely excited for this. The fit makes sense. You're going to re-sign him for a long deal, for a long period of time. This is a very good trade from the Indiana Pacers. And when it comes to those 3 first-round picks, like I mentioned earlier, this draft class is pretty mediocre. And the Pacers weren't going to be in contention for a top 10 or top 5 pick this year anyway. So what type of use do those picks have to them? Send them to a team that's rebuilding like the Raptors and get a guy who can help you start retooling and building something special in Indiana. That's exactly what they did. This is a very good trade from the Pacers, and I give them a W as well. Now, I know a lot of NBA fans don't really like to admit it. As NBA fans, we are so hyper-focused on there being a winner and a loser, because that's just the nature of sports. But when it comes to this trade, I think all 3 teams that were involved, they all got something up out of it. The Pacers, they got a guy who can play next to Tyrese and can take over and take some of the on-ball pressure off of him when he's on the court. When it comes to the Raptors, they got somebody off their team who had been an aging and what seems like depreciating asset for a good amount of picks and some pretty young upside players. So, in my opinion, this is a trade where I believe both teams come out with a W. But this is just my opinion, though. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let me know who you think won. Let me know if you think somebody lost. But that's all I have for now. And until next time, peace.